Well, it is 10 o'clock and I'll call the meeting to order. Commissioner Wilkins and myself are here. Judge Clark Campbell is unable to make it today, but we can establish a quorum. And we'll do the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any additions or revisions to the agenda?
I don't have any.
No.
We're good.
Correspondence, we had several things come in correspondence. Get to it. Hoping I can't get to it here.
I just need to go up to the homepage. Randy, you wanna-
Right here.
There you got it.
So,
Yeah.
oh, okay. In correspondence, we got a letter from the weed officer with his notice of retirement or resignation as of September 15th of 2022. I think that was in your packet, came later.
It wasn't, that I was posting it.
And there's a public notice from Oregon Department of Energy regarding an extension that Avangrid has asked for the Oregon Trailer Solar Facility project. Interesting in that they're asking for an extension for 3 years. Well, I'm not sure what that's about.
I think it's about contractors.
Could be they're having some trouble.
What I heard.
And then there's also a letter from Bill Conway with the Veteran Service in regards to cutting his hours back to 32 hours. And the judges have all responded to that. And a final report on the Conant Education Foundation grant, special grant project. All of these are online if you'd like to look at them. They're in the meeting packet for this meeting. Any questions on that?
I didn't tell any.
Move on to the consent agenda.
Do you have any questions about that?
I do have one on the minutes from the last meeting. I talked around about yesterday. I would like to have the minutes to reflect that we had a discussion regarding the salary adjustment for the position of the assistant to the commissioners and HR position, and then discussed in depth the importance of HR and the risk to the county regarding not handling an employee situation appropriately, all the risk, the financial risk that could be to the county, and I'd like to have the minutes reflect that. Problem with that?
No, I think that's a great addition.
And everything else I thought was fine in there. How about you?
Nope, everything's good.
How about a motion?
I move to accept the consent agenda.
A second. In favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed with the 2 of us. Then we'll move on to 5 point. Let's see, I should have read everything in the consent agenda. Too late now, I suppose. Huh?
I think everybody can see it.
Yeah, the items on the consent agenda are also in the meeting packets. If you'd like to review what's in the consent agenda. On to 5.0 unfinished business and 5.1. Hello, Kimberly. We are going to have a report.
Good morning.
Executive Director of CCS. Yeah, come on
Yeah,
up to
come on up
sit
so we
here.
can hear that. In the owl, so Owl can see you. That's the best part.
If I sit right there, that's too
It'll
close.
find you.
No, he's He's gonna find you nowhere where you
Okay.
sit.
Every time you talk,
All
you
right,
find
I prefer to sit. All right. I meant to make 5 copies,
you.
but I only made 4, so I have another one. Do you want one for the minutes or
I'll
records?
just keep this one.
Okay.
if you got one more, I'll take it.
Well, this one
Oh, you need-
isn't complete because it doesn't have the top,
You know,
that top
Okay.
one.
I can look at this one.
Okay. So, good morning. Good to see everyone. The, this top document, it's just Gilliam County data. Shows you the numbers of people that are enrolled in mental health and addictions. You have it broken out a couple of different ways: adults, chemical dependency, children, and assessments. The data is about a month to a month and a half behind. So we're in September right now. You have data complete through July. You have a side-by-side 2021 compared to 2022. So you can see that our numbers are in general up. And hopefully that's good.
Yeah.
We have seen just COVID just upset multiple systems, and our numbers were stable for quite a while and they've been going up. And so I'm assuming that there's, in addition to, getting peanut butter, there's like other disruptions as well. And we're seeing more people come in for services. So staff's been doing a great job. The next page is broken out by veterans. We weren't tracking the veterans services the first half of last year. So that's the reason why you see that is empty. In the top column, we have combined Gilliam and Wheeler just for anonymity. If you only have 1 or 2, and you happen to see one person walking in to see us and you knew that was a veteran, then, they've just been identified. And then the last page are the individuals who are 65 and older. And as you can see for Gilliam and Wheeler, those numbers have increased. And especially for January, February, March, we saw those numbers, those were double what they were last year.
Do you think that's because people have become more aware of being able to get some assistance rather than?
COVID related.
I think over the years, the stigma for receiving services or getting counseling has gotten better. So I think that that's gradually been improving, Sherry, but I think that a lot of it, like the spike, it's a spike, is COVID related. Now, like there's a host of things that you could put in the COVID basket. We have more referrals for kids that have came in, and you can see that in those numbers with kids receiving services. There's been more child welfare resources,
The
referrals.
chemical dependency assessments are actually down from what they were before.
Well, we are going to discuss that. I have some pretty strong opinions about that. So that I'll just segue into BERN. So Behavioral Health Resource Network, that's the next document. The background behind that is Measure 110. You probably remember that. And
Yes.
I usually don't share my personal opinions, but I personally think that was not a good measure for Oregon. I think that if I use something like DUI treatment, so in Oregon, if you get a DUI and you don't have any prior history, and your blood alcohol level is low, and that's important because people that have higher tolerances level are going to have a higher BAC level. And you don't get a higher tolerance just by drinking a few times. You get it because there's some history. So if you have a low BAC level, it's your first time, you can go through DUI education and you can have that dropped, that DUI dropped down to a misdemeanor. I don't know why Measure 110 didn't follow in the same steps where we had precedents. So Measure 110, it was a felony. If Oregon wants to see something, what I would call gradated, why not make that first Measure 110 offense? It starts as a felony, it could drop to a misdemeanor, and then your second, third, and fourth remain a felony. Instead, we just decriminalized everything across the board. I mean, you know, it's still a misdemeanor, so I get that it's still a crime, but for all intents and purposes, we do decriminalized it. So, so we are seeing much less in the way of referrals for people coming in for alcohol and drug treatment. In the past, if they received a possession charge, they would have been mandated in for treatment. So your corrections numbers are dropping on your adult probation and parole side. That's true across the board for Oregon because people aren't getting cited. You know, it's voluntary. So since Measure 110 was enacted, I think that there's been 200 people or less, not I think, there's been less than 200 people that have called the treatment line. There's been less than 200 citations that have been written for these misdemeanor charges.
So,
Folks know it's voluntary, so they're not coming in.
so on Measure 110, educate me a little, was alcohol included in
No.
the decriminalization? It wasn't it?
No.
Okay.
So here's a thought for you. So you have, let's say you have an 18-year-old sitting on a park bench drinking, and you have an 18-year-old sitting on a park bench using methamphetamine. That 18-year-old sitting on a park bench drinking is going to get charged for two things. They're going to get charged, they could get charged for public intoxication, and they could also receive an MIP. All of those are going to have court mandates, and they're going to have a requirement for treatment. This 18-year-old that is using meth is going to get a citation, like, you know, like a driving ticket. And it's optional if they appear. They don't have to appear. And there's no requirement at all for treatment. And it doesn't show up on the record. So we just, in one fell swoop, just made methamphetamine less of an issue than alcohol is.
Or marijuana or lots of other things.
Right, right.
So,
I mean, you know, you can pick any drug that you want.
so news is full of funding going down for treatment to all
Yeah.
communities at this point, and what's going to drive anything to change from where we're at?
Well, nothing. Just
Other than they got
gonna
a
be
bunch of money
candid.
for treatment.
Let's talk about that for a second. So the next document is the burn funding, Behavioral Health Resource Network funding. These are the dollars that came via Measure 110. It's the marijuana tax dollars, right? There's not any funding that's coming from other drug dollars. And I had incredibly mixed feelings about applying for these funds because I disagreed with Measure 110. And yet it was a large amount of money, and I didn't want Gilliam County to not receive the funds. And I didn't want some provider coming in that might use the funds in a way that might not be in keeping with Gilliam County values. Now I'm going to say a few things that might surprise you here in just a minute. So one of the things that is a big piece of Measure 110 is safe houses. I think I mentioned that when I came in last time. So in parts of Oregon, you're going to see safe houses come up, and that's places where people can go and use drugs without maybe risk of overdose, because the medication would be monitored. There'd be a nurse there. They'd be using clean needles. I'm not quite sure that Gilliam County would be is ready for that. And so I was a little bit protective, but so we did apply for it. I mentioned this last time, and we were approved. So we did receive $710,000 over 18 months for treatment. And I'll talk about how those will be spent. So I have 4 children. Some of them are still in school, and none of them, to my knowledge, have an addiction. That said, I've thought a lot about this issue. So if we talk about fentanyl for a moment, we've all heard about fentanyl. 80 years ago, the drugs on the street were all stuff that were, I mean, we had some manufactured stuff, but it was all, for the most part, fairly natural occurring substances. And I'm not saying that they aren't without problems. You can make alcohol, right? You don't need any chemicals to make it. It's just a process of fermentation. Marijuana grows, you have psilocybins that, are mushrooms, right? So I'm not getting into the right or wrong. I'm just saying that some of those drugs were problematic, but it's nothing like what we're seeing today, where these drugs are being manufactured in labs where you can take a pinhead, something smaller than a pinhead, and it'll kill you. You didn't have anything like that you consumed that would kill you 80 years ago, or, that was naturally grown. Now, you could get bit by a spider. I mean, anyways, I have a big aversion to spiders, but we're talking about things that you would take. So people don't know what they're taking now. They think they're taking something. Nobody wants to die. Most people don't take this substance because they want to die, but people are dying left and right because there's no control over these drugs at all. Zero. They're just being made in labs, and you can, I can say, if I were the president, I can say this drug with this chemical markup, which is C2F12D10. I just made that up. That's what it's made of. I'm going to outlaw that. And tomorrow, anybody in a lab that's doing this can change it to its C2F10D8. And it's even much more dangerous. But so there's a phrase that before the ink dries, there's already 100 out there, which is true. There's already 100 psychoactive substances that are being made every time one gets outlawed. And so back to what I was saying, if I was a parent, I do ask myself today, and I think I would have done this 40 years ago, would I want, if I had a child that was addicted to a substance, would it be helpful for me or for them to know exactly what they're taking, knowing that they don't want to die? And I say yes. I think that I would, but then what am I condoning when I do that? So, we're having these really hard conversations with ourselves that we've never needed to have before at all. And I don't have the answers, but I have been thinking about how do we, addiction is not going to go away. It's just not, and it's going to continue to get worse. And there's so many people that have investments in the need for people to continue to take powerful drugs. We don't like pain. So we want a medication to take the pain away. That's the biggest industry that's out there. Now, I don't think that folks necessarily want you to be addicted, but they do want you to take their drug to eliminate your pain. And as long as we have that out there, this stuff it's just not going to go away. So how are we safe about this? And I'll stop my little bandwagon here.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I think that we're going to have to. I was talking to my mom the other day. I call myself pretty old fashioned in general, but I feel like I'm going to have to start rethinking things. So I'm not at the place personally for safe houses yet. But given the premise that people don't want to die, how can we, and they're going to take a drug. How can we keep our people from dying and keep kids from dying? So, all right, how are we going to spend these dollars? We did apply for them. We did receive them, 710,000. You can skip the first 3 pages or read it tonight when you go to bed. I think I shared it last time. This is the final budget that was approved. You can see that we have some funds going to personnel. We are going to hire a new addictions clinician. We don't have a full-time addictions clinician in Gilliam and Wheeler County. So that will be nice. There'll be more availability. There's fewer people coming in, but more availability. We're going to put a fair amount of dollars, 300,000 into services. And the bulk of that is going to go into services to support people who are attempting to get clean. If you have a drug charge on your record, it is hard to find a place to rent. It's hard to get a job. So we're not going to be working on expunging that. I mean, we can't, that's really up to the courts. But how can we support them in reestablishing gainful employment and working on those relationships that have been damaged? So you could see in the budget that there's larger pieces of money. This time, one time we need to purchase a vehicle for the transportation that will be occurring. We also don't have in Gilliam County, this ties into my, well, it's actually not quite in the right order. There is, for folks that have a behavioral health issue that's lost their job, maybe they needed to go to the state hospital. And now they're out. There's no, if they don't have family, they're not going to come back home to Gilliam County. It's really difficult to find housing of any kind. So I know I'm preaching to the choir. The last document, so I'm skipping ahead. There was funds that came available to all counties in Oregon, Gilliam County included, to purchase some housing for people, short-term housing for people who are in need of something to help them get their feet back underneath them. So Gilliam County received 750,000. Same for Wheeler and Grant. Morrow County received about, what was Morrow County's amount? Maybe like 1.5 million, and Umatilla County received 4 point some odd million. So the total was 7.1 million. We wrote one response, which was nice. With those dollars for Gilliam County, we'll be purchasing about 2 homes. It's just going to depend upon how far. 450,000, that's a rough number, could be 5,000 or 550. But we put the bulk of the funds into homes, and then there's other funds that are listed where we'll also be doing short and long-term rental assistance for people
Where are you
that
going to
are,
get the home?
well, when they come up on the market. We don't have,
So you're looking for something with multiple bedrooms?
yeah, ideally it'd be nice to have 2 to 3 bedrooms. I mean, folks have families. Sometimes you have a single individual, but often you have kids.
You said
There's often kids.
450,000, that's very solid.
Well, Gilliam County received 750,000 total. Right now we can change these numbers. It'll depend upon the cost of the homes, but we have 450,000 earmarked to purchase a couple of homes. That could be 550, it can be 600, it can be 650. We'll just need to communicate with the state. And then we put the rest into short and long-term housing. We did pull out a piece from all the counties, you can see that there's a full-time housing manager, because we're purchasing these homes in all the counties, and they will come with, they do need some support. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So, there's an issue at the state hospital with people that are there on aid and assist. There's people that are in jails because they don't have places to go, that have behavioral health issues. Some of this was present before COVID. It was all amplified after COVID, and folks with behavioral health issues are struggling with homelessness and houselessness. I think that the numbers for Gilliam County have doubled, which isn't to say you went from 50 to 100, but for the behavioral health issues, they went from about 5 to 10. And so this was approved by the legislature. And again, I just didn't want to leave those dollars sitting on the table. So CCS will purchase a couple of homes. And
How do you monitor that you're getting good out of that purchase?
well, so that's part of having the home manager, but there'll be people that are enrolled in our services, and that'll be a requirement. No alcohol or drug use. There'll be rules in the home, and I'm not going to tell you that if we have these homes for 40 years, that law enforcement will never be called to the home. I'm certain that they will.
And they will be owned by,
They'll be owned by CCS. The hope is that they're called to the home less than other people who were doing things that they shouldn't be doing, that are getting more calls to the home. But there'll be rules, and if they're not following the rules, then they won't be able to stay.
when I was in Oklahoma, there were several gentlemen that had bought homes that did the same thing from the private side,
Mhm.
but they had rules
Right.
and they had problems. But
Yeah.
at least was a place to kind of get them some structure. And
You're familiar probably with Oxford houses. Have you
same
heard?
thing. In
Yeah,
fact, these are a little,
Yeah.
maybe a little looser because they're privately owned, where Oxford is under a
right,
profit.
right.
Yeah.
And these won't be Oxford houses, but it's similar right now. When somebody from Gilliam County goes to addictions treatment and they come back and they need sober housing, if they don't have that with their family, or they're not living individually, they're not coming back to Gilliam County.
Yep.
They're gonna go someplace else until they feel stable enough. And it would be nice for them to have the option to come back home. So that's the hope. Aid and assist, I mentioned that briefly. Gilliam County doesn't have anybody in the state hospital who's unable to aid and assist. So somebody commits a crime, they're not able to aid and assist in their own defense to determine whether or not they committed the crime due to a mental health issue or not. It's become a tool in public defenders' toolboxes to use this, as opposed to working through a prosecution case. However, when there is somebody from Gilliam County, there's a lot of resources that go into it. So there was funding that came out to respond to an RFP. If Gilliam County did have somebody, we wrote the response. If you flip to the last page, you can see the budget. We requested $48,871 for Gilliam County. If we have somebody, we can pay for the evaluation as opposed to sending them to the state hospital. And if they need secure residential treatment, they won't get that in Gilliam County because there's not an SRTF in Gilliam County, but we'll be able to pay for it as opposed to them staying in jail. So I feel like I've been very busy writing. I want to take a quick moment to do a shout out for the staff. Mary Helen Peterson continues to manage some amazing clinicians. Damon Holland does a lot of work in Gilliam County. He's doing just a great job. We so appreciate Damon. You have school-based counselors. You have Sammy in Arlington. And gosh darn it, not Alicia. Katie, thank you so much, Delaney. Katie Hams, they just do awesome. We love our relationships with the schools. We're thankful for their support and for the county's support. The numbers are higher, and some of that is a testament to the clinicians. You have solid clinicians doing good work. People want to come in and be seen. So
you said you didn't have anybody that dependency or whatever.
aid and assist,
Hmm?
aid and assist. Yeah, from Gilliam County.
No, I mean, before when
Oh.
we were talking about, I guess, full-time chemical dependency.
Right, we did not have a full-time chemical dependency. It's been a long time. We did have, I was gonna say we haven't had one in Gilliam County, but that's not true. When Michelle Gear first started to work for CCS back in 2008, when Gilliam County separated from Mid-Columbia Center for Living, because that was the prior behavioral health provider. Michelle Gear did full-time addictions work. She was with CCS for maybe half a year, not quite, when she accepted the position of, what did she do first? Was she a counselor or did she jump right into being a principal? Yeah, she was a counselor. So we couldn't find anybody initially to fill Michelle's position for full-time addictions work. So we ended up mixing it up a little bit. And then we've just stayed there where the existing clinicians have done both. And there's some upside to that when you know how to provide both types of counseling. That's good, because rarely does somebody walk in with just, one issue. Usually there's like a host of issues that have went on before you even sometimes get into the addiction. But things have become more and more specialized. The rules have become more segregated. So it will be helpful to have a dedicated person that just works in addictions, especially when you think about what we talked about earlier with fentanyl, all the novel psychoactive substances. There's a lot of training involved in staying on top of some of the current addictions issues. I can talk a lot about a lot of stuff, so I'm just thoughtful about your time. I want to make sure that there's time for some questions. Anything more you want more information on, I can keep talking or I can come back. I always am scheduled to come down a couple times a year, but I might have people behind me that are.
You and I have
Ready.
attempted to have a meeting elsewhere several times.
Yeah.
Been busy and hasn't happened. I really want to do that.
I will. I was thinking about you maybe, well, I think about you all often, but probably 6 weeks ago, Commissioner Shannon, and went back and I think I saw the email where you had said, or we talked about meetings. So I'll just send that off to you again. And if it works to me, then great. Happy to come to
And I'll drive
Arlington.
too.
Okay, that sounds good. Other questions? Comments?
Rob has a question. Rob Turrie.
A question regarding the homes that you might possibly buy.
Mhm.
So what would be the process as far as informing the public that what the home is going to be used for?
If the home is within the city, or has any neighbors within a couple of miles, then we would notify the public and let them know that we're looking at purchasing this home.
Because what would the public have any ability to prevent that?
So being 100% candid, no, but being 100% candid, CCS hasn't done anything that has in the past significantly upset the public. I want to say that it's perfect, but we have listened to what the public has said. So we're charged with providing safe housing, right? We need to do that. And we want to be good neighbors. So we would have a struggle if everything that we proposed was shot down. Because there is a need. There are people in Gilliam County that don't have stable housing. So, if people come up with or there are aware of places that are for sale that they think would be good, we'd love to hear that. You know, I would say this probably fine, and we don't really want to piss people off. But we also can't put the population 50 miles from town, because often these are individuals that don't have reliable transportation, who have kids or who are, you know, going to school, that are in need of socialization. And they have jobs, and it's not a farm job typically, like they don't own farm. So there you have it.
I totally agree that the need is there. It's just that knowing how these things typically come out, there's a lot of opposition because they want to next to their house kind of thing. One thing you might look at the old mill here on North Main, across from Block Construction and other places. Those folks have done some rehab to that building, new windows and other things. And they were originally talking about doing maybe 6 or 7 units in there. That could be something that, again, it's almost really in a kind of a commercial district already, right down the street from the clinic.
Oh, you're talking about right across from, Dave Allman.
Yeah,
Yeah, right there.
yeah, that old building.
Yeah.
I've been in touch with people so many times. Oh yeah, we're gonna get to it. They live in Rainier and don't.
They put windows and doors in.
Yeah, I mean, they put a lot of money into it, but that's been over a year ago. I was just sitting there, but
Is it a house?
It's an apartment building.
it's
Oh.
originally an old.
It's a 3-story.
3-story, it was originally a flour mill, and, but it was an apartment building at one time. But it's been empty forever, but that, might be something that you could look at.
That would be a really good spot.
Are they, but it's not for sale now?
It's not for sale, but it could be. But if it's,
Would you be able to get me,
It's gonna require some serious, dollars
Rehab.
put into it. I also will tell you that we have, the gentleman from Condon originally who has returned to town, to take care of his father, and is
Mhm.
a contractor.
Contractor.
And he is working with an investor, to buy some, dilapidated houses, rehab them, and put them up for sale. So I will get in touch with this Mark
Griffith.
Griffith is his name. And, he's got 20 years experience doing pretty large projects, actually, mostly in Fargo, North Dakota. We moved here for the weather, I think.
He's also got a lot of experience with chemical dependency.
And he's been very straightforward about that, so, that could be a reason for him to be even more interested.
maybe he could do the remodel on the apartment building?
That's
That's what you're thinking?
what I've kind of.
Yeah, would anybody be able
Well,
to get me
I'll do
the
some work on it.
names, or like if you were to contact the mill people, maybe they know you, they might be more
You know, if you get
receptive
a
to
hold of
you.
them, Rob,
The owners, yeah. I can,
So yeah, if you could work on that, that'd be great. I'll send you an email probably later today about meeting, and then we could just connect on that if they're willing to sell. I mean, I need to go look at it. It's gotta, we could take all of the funds and put in there. The reason why I was thinking 2 houses was one in Condon, one in Arlington. So just, that's something I would want to be thoughtful about. I don't know if we want to put all the resources in Condon, but open to suggestion, because the NIMBY it's a real thing. Yeah.
which way do you go from here?
Well, I'm gonna drive out there right now.
Because
Yeah.
if you turn left at the top of Main Street, it's second building on the left.
Just go straight up Main Street up towards the clinic.
Head towards, once you turn the stop sign, the 3-way,
Go straight through the stop sign?
take a left to go up Main Street towards the clinic, it'll be the second building on the left.
That's what
Oh,
I'm
so just
sharing.
go out to the clinic
Yeah,
and
so
it's
go like you're
past.
going up
As
to
soon
the
as you
clinic.
just
and it's
go to the
literally
clinic,
second
it'll be
building
the
on
second
your left.
building.
Just go up, right?
You'll see it.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's another
Okay.
old apartment building up on the next block that's no good. It's in pretty tough shape, but
is it on the left? Just so relative to the clinic, if I'm standing in the middle of the street looking west, right? Clinic's on the right.
It would be.
before you
Left.
get there.
It's before you get to the
Yeah,
clinic
In the
on the
first
left.
block when you turn.
Okay,
And you
got
can see
it.
the new windows.
So if you turn to go to the clinic, it's gonna be in the first
Oh,
block.
I have seen this. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go take a look at it, but I've
Yeah, there's
seen
no
that
stairs
building.
right now.
Yeah, I've seen
but
that.
there's a door.
I've wondered what's going on there. It's been years.
Oh,
Yeah, okay, yeah. Alrighty,
Well, Delaney will get this information out on the website so
Okay.
people can look at that. And
okay. If you think of anything else that you want to know about, otherwise I'll be back in a couple months and I'll follow up with you, Commissioner Shannon, and good to see everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before you leave, is it okay if should Delaney send me or your email?
I'm ready down for you right now.
That'd be great.
And then when you get done with that, you can come up here, Rob. Under
It's your
5.2, it's your turn to discuss the Gilliam County Affordable Housing Loan Grants Program.
But that would, yeah. Some there, we got a lot of dilapidated houses and, you know, obviously. So,
Great, thanks so much.
on.
How are
Good
you?
morning. Floor is yours.
All righty, not a whole lot's happened since June that I was here, except interest rates skyrocketed
Oh,
and,
yeah.
inflation was up a little bit.
Just a minute.
But we're working with Home First developers on the, Condon Golf Course apartment complex. Still waiting for them to get us back the site plan so that we can present it to, the public, basically. We did decide on the unit mix as 10 2-bedrooms and 6 1-bedroom units. They have come back with a pro forma, which is nothing but a pro forma as far as costs go. Total cost of the project in their mind was $4.2 million total. 200,000, I believe, per apartment was the construction cost aspect of it. But they haven't done the survey or geotechnical yet. They're having a hard time getting somebody to come out here and survey the site properly. But it is at the architect to put together what the site looks like. So we're pretty excited about that. I think it's, we definitely need it. And I know that you probably all received that email from Les about in California, they were
Yeah.
putting
Go ahead.
on school property or something like that. But, I think that's the kind of thing that, those sorts of activities as far as being able to maintain teachers, which is really hard everywhere in the country because a lot of people are fed up and, after COVID and everything else, it's like, hey, this is not worth the hassle. But obviously we need teachers to teach our children and they need a place to live. So, we are moving ahead with that. Construction continues up here on the corner. That was funded through, or it's being funded through a Gilliam County Attainable Housing construction loan. They tell me they're hoping the end of November to have it ready to move in. Currently we have, if you look at your, the reconciliation doc that I sent, you'll see outstanding GCH loan funds of $201,000 there. 128 of that is out on that construction loan. The other 73 is a term loan that we have 44 months left on for a rental that was built up in Arlington. So those are dollars that, that come back.
That's in addition to the 789.
Right, so we still have 990,000
Right.
basically, when that money returns. The term loan dollars are gonna come back at, 500, really about $370 principal per month, back into that fund. And then we get the interest off of that to help, administer the fund. It's not huge, but every little bit helps. So no, we have over almost $1 million still available, which is the beauty of the construction loan aspect, is that we don't get bogged down with the long-term loan. We're not competing with mortgage lenders, which
Right.
we're not supposed to be doing. But what we're doing right now, I think, which is really going to be more attractive than ever, is we're maintaining our rates. 3% construction loan right now is
Absolutely.
just
Yeah.
it's a bargain. I mean, it's a deal, with no fees. It's just,
Yeah,
you're gonna,
that's great.
so we're really kind of trying to push that. People have been so busy though, that they've had a hard time, even like Charlie Burdick, for example, has got, stuff all over the place now. And, that's why I'm kind of hoping that,
And trying to get more.
yeah, I'm hoping that Mark Griffith can, come back and do some good. I really like the fact that he's been involved in building, larger, multi-family projects, which we don't have any experienced people here doing that, because they, it just has never been done. But I definitely am excited. I think that's a great idea about them wanting to buy some houses. Again, it's just, it's gonna be a tough sell, I think. But it depends on, where it is. I think if they could do something with that building, that would be awesome. Because those people, again, they don't have vehicles, or they may not have reliable, you could walk to
Right.
everything from there.
Yes.
And also pick up, public transportation as well, whatever that might be. We do have another investor that has informed me that they're gonna build a rental on one of the golf course lots. And then once they complete the project, they are gonna apply for,
On the golf course lot?
no, the baseball field.
Facebook.
They're gonna apply for one of our attainable housing new rental development grants, which we increased from 10 to
That's
20,000.
a developer that,
No, it's actually somebody that wants to eventually live here, retire here, but they want to,
rented for a while.
they want to build it and rent it for 5 or 10 years. And they'll, like I said, they'll apply for the new rental grant at that point. So the, $20,000 can help.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
definitely.
And it locks in a 5-year long-term rental for us, which I still think that baseball field would have been a better place to build the stuff for the teachers, but that's wasn't up to me. Oh, and Charlie also has maybe expressed an interest in building a spec house in Arlington as well, using the program, which I would be totally for. Charlie's been excellent to work with, and I don't have any issues with billing or any of those things, which can be a real headache in construction. You really need to know who you really need to know who you're working with.
The unknown there is the market today, what's gonna happen with it and what,
No, it's a really tough time. I think a lot of people that just bought houses are like, oh my God, what have I done? Because it can go the other way in a hurry. I do think we're still seeing a lot of outflow.
The demand is still there.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of outflow from the cities, and I think we're seeing a lot of overflow from Boardman and Hermiston, because there's nothing there either.
Right.
But there's not a lot of buildable land in.
Have you looked
in
into
Arlington.
any of the 3D printed housing projects under that?
I haven't very much. Rachel, my wife actually was big on that a few years ago, and they're building them in Texas right now.
Yeah, I went to a summit last Monday and was pretty interesting.
What kind of cost are they talking about?
They're comparable right now. What they really need to do is get big enough to set up to come in and build 20 in one place, and then they can bring the cost down.
Sure.
Because they're kind of doing one here, and they're doing one in Virginia. You know, they've got some in Texas. But it's pretty interesting. I think in the long run, yeah, there's probably a cost reduction that can come out of it. But there's been some, I listened to that summit, there was some, some other programs going on where land had become available and donated for housing, and then the cities had put the utilities in, they got the power companies to put the electricity in, and so they took the cost down a lot for workforce housing by getting that stuff, kind of donated or however, just to, basically, if you can, from the county perspective, if you can get the houses eventually into the tax basis, you can probably make an investment early on that. Yeah. A lot of ideas out there, trying to scramble around what's going on now.
Well, yeah, it's not a good Gilliam County problem. It's a national problem, really. Let's see. You'll see there's no change in the grant fund since I was last year. We have not provided any new grants in the since July 1. But we look for that to happen with the place on the ball field and try to get some other folks interested in it.
Delaney and Judge Farrar Campbell met with the new superintendent of Arlington schools, and I think he has some ideas for things he'd like to do to
On school property.
Talking about teacher housing.
teach us. Yeah.
Specifically,
On school property.
So very similar, basically what Les was talking about.
Yes, exactly what Les was talking about.
they own some property within a residential district that's connected to the school that they're looking at possibly building on.
That would be
So
great.
there's big interest for that in Arlington as well.
And that would be funded.
Don't
It
know
hasn't
yet.
got that
Yeah.
far yet. It was just kind of an overview.
Yeah, it's this is our idea, and this is where the property is, and it's in the thinking stages.
Okay. That would be excellent, actually. That is about it, but I will, I'm expecting the site plan. I was hoping to have it by today, but apparently they're too busy. But, and we're out here, excuse me. But as soon as I get that, I will send it out to all of you to take a look at, and also the pro forma. It's a pretty long document, and it's kind of, kind of hard to look at, and plus it's just a pro forma. I really think that we may have start to see some of the costs go down by the time this kind of gets started.
That would be nice.
Which would be really nice. We're not seeing it yet, though. Even though, housing supposedly slowing down, the contractors are telling me that, cost of materials is still like through the roof, especially like drywall and that kind of stuff is just crazy expensive. And it's kind of, you don't really know how much it's going to cost to build something when they're putting a lot more contingency on their bids, which I think they have to, to
I
cover it.
talked to Charlie yesterday, and he said, not too long ago, $200,000 house, now 300,000. Then to make it work, make it pencil.
Right. And,
That really takes it out of workforce housing.
yeah, I mean, it's, with inflation doing what it's doing and interest rates, you can't pencil.
Yeah, and you're talking about a house that used to be 1,800, 2,000 square feet, and we're talking 1,300 square feet for that house now.
Oh, absolutely. And it's, they're renting, the new one that we built, it's being rented for $1,450 up there in Arlington. It was $1,600 and it's $1,450 and it's about 1,200 square feet, I think.
I've been in it.
That's the kind of demand and market that there is, but a lot of workforce housing folks can't afford $1,400 a month when, everything else is costing so much more. But we'll see. I think it's going to be kind of a shaky year coming forward as far as.
Well, they gotta live somewhere. They end up homeless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was the same, I think.
Priorities maybe.
I think what she was talking about earlier about the state hospital and those types of things. I mean, that's across the country, that's why we're seeing so a big thing of homeless people. We've just turned them out on the streets, you know, instead of taking care of them in a safe place. It is really sad, or trying to do it privately, which I don't think is the way to do it, but anyway. Any other questions? I know there's some gentlemen that are waiting patiently here.
It does look like we have a message from the Times Journal that there's a 3D house in John Day.
Oh, there is a 3D house. which I didn't
That's
talk about.
completed.
Really? Oh, you know, there was some discussion.
Yeah.
but I didn't-
We talked about that. I talked about that.
Sounds like a road trip.
Does, doesn't it?
Interesting. Can you
They
forward that to me?
Yeah, I don't think they've done any interior wall 3D interior. It's all been exterior. They could do interiors, was my understanding, but
I think, yeah, I believe they can do interiors.
but the ones that have been done so far.
Or like
are
a shell,
exterior,
right?
And then you just go in and do the interior,
Yeah.
same as full construction.
Well, when you have national problems like this, somebody will figure out a way to
Hopefully.
to get it done.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Thank you, Rob,
Thank you, for continuing to support us, and,
continuing to do the work.
we will hopefully have more to talk about next time. Thanks.
And with that, we will move on to 5.3, and I believe Delaney's going to give us a rocket learning initiative update.
Yes, so we, August was our initial month for starting the actual part of the rocket process. Most of the work Liz and I had done before then was just the pre-work set up for it. We had our, our flight meeting was our last meeting where we kind of launched into the next task, and we've divided into two groups. Liz is the head of the workforce group, so it's working with various state organizations, the child cares themselves, with finding ways to provide more resources to the workforce. That is a huge hindrance for most of our child care centers currently, is the lack of workforce plus the training for the workforce, and really not being as attractive as other employers. Most of our child care centers and all of our child care centers in Gilliam County don't offer healthcare benefits, competitive wages, things like that. So it's working to find not just how to offer those things, but the funding that can help stabilize those centers. And then I am in charge of the home-based care line, and that is, Gilliam County is one of the state licensors said, I think the only county, or if not one of the few counties, that doesn't have a home-based care facility at all. And so really maybe we're trying to come up with creative ways to entice people to open a center either in their home, or how can they also maybe open another center in a commercial space. The licensing is a lot different for those home-based care centers. It's not as stringent with their staff needing to have various certifications and things like that. So it's easier to open a home-based center. And then that would alleviate the burden off of our current centers that we have. Arlington is looking to have a wait list for the first time at the Arlington Child Care Center. And that is something that they have not had in a while. And as we know, Condon has an extensive wait list here at the Early Learning Center. So trying to fill the gap with various ways of offering that home-based care. And as well as looking at it as possible after-school care and things like that.
Fill the gaps.
Mhm.
Is that home-based care limiting factor on size of the facility that they use, or number of kids?
No, it's a number of kids. It's a combination of how much of your licensing, like what you get approved for, but home-based care centers, if I remember correctly, can have up to 16. And that's a mix of ages. So it's one of those things that varies by age and things like that.
It's almost a have to make it
So, and there's,
effective and
and so it just depends on what model they go with is, but even if somebody came in right now and did wrap care, where they did after school and Friday care, it would be something that would be a great asset to at least Condon and probably potentially Arlington as well, as that continues to grow there. So that's where we're at with Rocket. We'll meet again, October 6th will be our final meeting for at least this portion of the process, where we kind of report on the progress that's been made. And hopefully come up with a plan to continue to meet from there to work this stuff out. We have a really great group. Yeah, Condon Early Learning Center is certified as a center, yes. We have a really great group of people there. It's been fantastic to see the discussions, and the home-based care thing wasn't something we had identified with the Rocket organizers until that meeting when one of the state licensor from Oregon Department of Early Learning brought it up. She's like, you guys know you don't have any licensed home-based centers in Gilliam County, right? And we're like, we had never thought about that
Right.
in that way.
Yeah.
So that was something that when that became an avenue to explore with just helping people ease into that. So.
Good. Making progress.
Mhm.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we move into new business at 6.0 and consider approval of an IT service bid. And once again, I will turn that over to Delaney.
So this was a task that was passed on to me when I took on the IT roles back in August. Miranda had started this process and did most of the meetings and gathered all of the proposals. I just gathered them together and I'm here for you guys. Miranda reached out to several organizations, Team Logic IT, RadComp, Structured, and Actech Solutions, Inc. Those are the ones that submitted a proposal. And we had 2 decline, Helix and Solutions IT. We have 3 of them here in-house today to present, so I will turn it over to our first one with Team Logic. Hello. Yeah, go ahead, take a seat.
So you guys have my proposal.
It should be, you guys' packet, I can pull it up on the screen.
Won't go through the whole thing. We'll try to save some time here.
You're gonna put it up on the
Yep,
screen.
I'm gonna share my screen. Yep.
Okay, so the first few slides are just going to be an alignment of services. As we were meeting with you guys, you told us what you were needing. And so based on what you told us, we put together this proposal. I'm not going to go through everything here. If we could just jump to the pricing slide, we'll just talk about the services and the pricing there. Okay, so included in this contract would be network monitoring, maintenance, and security software, remote support. That's for all of your employees that work for the county. Networking management and problem resolution. So if you have any issues that you need help with, your internet's not working, or maybe a network is down, you would just let us know and we'll investigate and resolve those issues accordingly. Unlimited help desk and remote support. So you don't have to worry about how many tickets you guys are opening or how much work you guys are having us do. It's all included in this contract. We'll make a backup of your 365 tenant, and that includes contacts, calendars, critical email data, and if you use SharePoint or anything like that, it would also include that data. We will do admin support for your cloud apps. So anytime you need to add a user, remove a user, anything like that, you would just submit a ticket. We'll take care of all that for you. We will install an enterprise endpoint antivirus on your machines, as well as DNS filtering for those machines, and we will implement spam filtering. So those are basically 3 different facets of security, how we can prevent and mitigate malware and malicious attacks on your organization. For example, the spam filtering is going to try to catch phishing emails that are being sent. So when you have somebody send you an email that says, maybe it came from what looks like your boss, and they say, go down to the store and buy me $600 in Apple gift cards, right? So we're trying to catch things like those before they even get to your users, so that nobody can make those mistakes and go out and actually purchase those cards, which we've seen very often. And DNS filtering is filtering your browsers ability to access specific websites if they are not correct. Meaning if you type google.com and you hit a DNS server, it responds with an IP address, right? So you're going to end up at google.com, but if you are on a malicious DNS server, it's going to point you at a different address. You're going to end up somewhere where you don't want to be. We'll do the yearly security assessments as well. So we do scan the network for any holes in the network and servers, etc. This could be updates. It could be old users that have been, long gone, but they have never been removed from your systems and stuff like that. We want to reduce your attack surface as much as possible. You will have a technical lead for your entire organization. So you'll have one person essentially who knows the most about all of the systems that are involved with running the county's systems. And then from that, we also have a help desk staff of 15 people. So we've got a lot of people there to help you guys out. Okay, so back down to the pricing. The pricing for all of this is going to be coverage for 62 workstations, and office staff, 7 servers, and 1 office network at $5,500 a month. That does include an on-site visit. We only included 1 day. And the reason we did that is we don't want the county to be committed if they don't need that extra day. So we don't want you to have to pay that extra amount of money every single month if you don't use one of those days. So what we did instead is if you want that extra day, it's just going to be an extra $1,000 that month. Okay, so one day is built in. We'll come out at least 1 day a month, and the other day is up to you guys. If there is a need for it, you just let us know and we'll come out that second day.
So when you have the 4 hours on the spreadsheet, that's 2 hours travel each way and then 4 hours.
That's
here.
correct. That's correct. So I actually drove 3 hours here today. I live in Kelso myself, so I had to drive down from Kelso, Washington. That does include travel time though, so it's all there. We did include also a discounted project rate at $150 per hour, and we discounted the travel rates by half, so it's $75 per hour rather than the full $150. And then you'll have a one-time onboarding project fee, which includes the network security assessment, and that'll be the $2,600 one time. And in that, we did waive the travel fee for that. So we won't be charging any travel to get the onboarding done either. Do we have any questions?
Is that, I'm looking at, does that show on that? Those are there the 1 day? Let's see it. That's it.
I am not seeing it, but I do have an updated proposal I'll send you, and it does include the 1 day, 4 hours.
Do you guys work with any other public entities?
Absolutely. We have several municipalities that we do work for, including South Fork Water Board and East Multnomah Soil and Water Conservation District. So those are 2 of the municipalities that we support. We were unable to get a response from them as to whether or not we could have you call them. So unfortunately, I can't give you that contact information, but rest assured, we do have experience working with municipalities.
I don't have anything. Do you?
I don't have any questions. If this lays things out pretty well.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
No problem at all.
Thank you.
Brian.
Next.
How's it good? I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Ryan Krebs. I live in White Salmon. I'm the owner of Radcom Technologies. Radcom Technologies has been in business now. Next year will be our 20-year mark. Started it when I was like basically in high school. So
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
We're in the 8th grade.
our, you don't have to pull up our proposal if you don't want to and stuff, because I'm just gonna really just talk a little bit about culture, kind of how we're different than, like say our competition and stuff like that. I'm also really bad at public speaking, so just to let you guys
You're in the
know.
right place, since we aren't very good at it.
Yeah, so anyhow, so, I was born and raised in White Salmon, come from a cattle ranching background, 6th generation. But there's really not that much money. It's hard to be making a living in that. So that's kind of how I fell into this role. That is fun. I like to enjoy it, but this is kind of where it took me. 70% of our clients are within about 115 miles of your guys' location here. Right now, currently, we have 29 full-time employees in our organization, and we're headquartered in White Salmon. I'd say, I think 4 of our staff are actually live in the Dalles. And with this account, you guys would have a dedicated guy, VCIO, and his name's Rich, and he actually lives in the Dalles and stuff like that. And he came out and kind of did the on-site evaluation with us. So our really goal is to kind of be different and have a really good experience. So, we've tried to do stuff a lot remotely, but sometimes it just requires you to be on site, and your guys' most important asset is your guys' employees. And I think it's important that, like if they have something that they're working through, like 2-factor authentication or something to that extent, that you actually have some on-site presence. A lot of stuff can be done remotely, but, our proposal is to basically give you guys unlimited on-site support, unlimited remote support, unlimited project time, because we don't want it to be kind of confusing to where it's like, oh, well, this is a project or this isn't a project, this is included, this is not included. So we're just like, okay, what would be our cost for total labor, associated with you guys' maintaining and, providing support to you guys. So trying to think of other key differentiator things is, we really support rural America. Most of our clients are in rural atmospheres. We come kind of think outside the box. A lot of times we have to put in like wireless bridges and things like that you don't see in the major metropolitan cities. We do have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week support. We have 2 technicians that are on call at any given time and answering service. So if something did come up or, we got an alarm, somebody would respond to those, issues. We don't really market much in our company. We don't door-to-door knock. All of our businesses really provided to us by word of mouth, and people saying, hey, you guys do good work, people moving jobs, and then, and doing that referral base. So our proposal, basically, if you guys look at number-wise, there's a one-time fee of $13,700, which is kind of expensive, but, we'll do a really, really in-depth assessment of your guys' network and onboard stuff. We put little stickers on every one of your guys' computers. So, if somebody calls up and says, hey, I need remote support, they can just read that little digit, 5-digit number, and it'll tell us exactly what system you guys are on. We also are going to make changes or offer suggestions to changes that need to be made for that $13,000 almost $14,000. And then the monthly support cost is $11,900. We're open to negotiate any of that, if you don't want all the unlimited on-site support, you don't want the project stuff, but we just found that it's better to just tell you kind of what it's going to end up being in the year versus, trying to nickel and dime you and doing change orders and constantly sending over proposals and stuff like that. So we've been doing managed services for 13 years. We did notice some aging equipment downstairs, or in the server rack, and some looked like some old phone system and stuff like that. And that was a couple months ago. And so I don't know if that's all been pulled out of there, but I'm like a really clean ship and make sure that if there's something you guys aren't being used or that we pull that out of there. And so it's not there. If anybody has any questions or concerns.
And your project rates are outside the contract scope. How come there's such a large rate from 185 to 20?
So that those contract prices is really just if the building burns down. I only know one time where we've actually had to charge those, and that's when we're dealing with an insurance agency. But all your project rate is, it's basically $185 an hour is what we would charge for those hourly rates. But that's all included in that monthly service fee. The way it escalates to that high is if it was Christmas Day and you had a project that you wanted done on that specific day, then it's 2x the price of the fee. So it's really just a way to deter people from doing work after hours on those holiday weekends. So
Pretty good answer.
Yeah. I could sell cars.
I looked at that number and I know what the heck?
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing. I mean, if you read through any of these, read through all of our competitors. I mean, it's hard. I mean, as a commissioner, it'd be really hard to understand IT services and projects, and it's just and not one solution's right for each company. So I looked last meeting I listened in, and there's a fiber project and it was a substantial amount of money, and I'm thinking, okay, you could just buy a Starlink circuit and over the 40 years of that lifespan serve that, because it doesn't need to be connected up. So I was just thinking kind of outside the box, and do we really need to spend 40K to build that fiber to that location? Where it's like, Starlink's going to be a big game changer, and I think you're going to see a lot of people move into this area because of that.
So you might want to justify the $13,000 onboarding one more time.
Okay, so basically, a lot of times people, when they come in on board, they basically just throw a tool set on their network and then just jam it out. We're literally going to go to every machine and check it, physically label each machine. We're going to go through and look at all those equipment, label all the wires that need to go in there. We're going to be on site for probably a week, if not a couple people, going through and evaluating that, looking at this video conferencing system and understanding that. So if we do get a phone call, we've documented all that information, and we'll provide you guys with a copy of that documentation if you want that. But we just really do, we find it's more important to spend that time up front and understanding everything and understanding why somebody made a change or did this for this reason, because we could make some suggestions too that make things a lot easier. A lot of times we uncover things like half the people in the organization have two-factor authentication, half don't. So we would then mitigate that and change that with your guys' approval to make sure that we're all in alignment to prevent from those towards security threats that could come up and occur.
So if you're going to do that great job of onboarding, how come your monthly fee so high?
So because we're going to be sending people out on site, I feel like we're probably going to have somebody on site once a week, just because I feel like, and you guys could tell me differently, but if you're trying to explain to somebody how to, to do something remotely, it's way better to train that person, have them on site, walk them through that process, and have that best in experience that they can, And so I just calculated the total time that it's going to take to, support your guys' account, give you guys the highest level of service that we can provide. But you're correct. It does minimize the amount of time that we're going to do. So if we did a bad onboarding fee, then I would say that your month would be another probably $1,000, $2,000 a month. You know what I mean? Long term, because what actually ends up happening after a year, I figure out how many hours we're going to spend on site, how much we're going to do remotely to come up with a cost, and then multiply that to come up with what I'm going to actually, charge you guys. In a year when this contract, if we haven't used the amount of hours that we think that we're going to be using, we're going to renegotiate. And, I'm going to say, because we really want that long-term relationship. And if you guys only used 10 hours a month and we were thinking you were going to use 20 hours a month, there's tool costs and there's other costs that are associated with that. But then we would renegotiate that agreement and stuff. And I would say we could, we used to do these, a lot of times just time and material, but then send you a bill. But then it's like one of our guys forgets to bring a mouse, they have to drive it back. Now is that you guys get penalized on that? And that's the last thing I want you guys to do is worry about the money side of it. When it comes down to all the little things, we're really looking at the big picture of what it would cost and what your total experience is going to be. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I would hope you wouldn't charge for going back for a mouse you forgot.
No, that's why I would say so too. You know what I mean? But I'm just using that as an example, so.
Hey, Ryan, can you hear me? You guys hear me all right?
Yeah.
Hey,
This is-
I met with some of you guys there on site. I just wanted to add to that, we kind of did the walk around down there as far as the complexity of the network in your closet, down in your server room and things like that. There's a couple different organizations that tie into there, and it's, and that adds to the complicationsness of making sure that is all completely and fully documented as far as who's providing what resources, who has authorization for those resources, how they all talk and communicate together. So there's some very specific technical things that are going to take some time to really document really well. And that's why that is, you know, a bit higher than, you know, maybe expected. The other thing is meeting with your different departments. Each department is almost like their own complete organization. They have their own needs, their own softwares, their own, you know, way. So the organization as a whole, you know, operates together and stuff like that. But each department really has their own needs and things, which we really don't make sure we put time at the start to get that fully and completely documented and understand what those departments' needs are, you know, specifically the police department, things like that. So I just wanted to add that in there, why those monthlies and the initial onboarding is what they are. So.
Thank you.
And currently 23 of our employees, of our 30 employees that we have, are CGIS certified and already been background checked and everything like that. So, because we do work with a lot of other municipalities, police departments, in both Oregon and Washington. So that's one of the first things when we onboard one of our employees, we get them fingerprinted and go through that whole process and stuff like that. So.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions or?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim?
Good morning.
Good
Good to
morning.
see your smiling faces today. So I am here representing ActTech Solutions, the current IT provider. We've been in business for over 30 years here in Oregon. We actually support a lot of counties in rural and eastern Oregon. References, you can look up Lake, Harney, Jefferson, Sherman, Gilliam, of course. And then we also have a retainer with Crook County, who we've serviced for a number of years and continue to work with them as well. So if you ever reach out to Sydney in their IT department, she would give us an awesome review. After the transition of tech and jobs within Gilliam County, we spoke with Liz and with Miranda and then now with Delaney about the transitions that happened when Kelly was on board and her main responsibility was over tech. You know, after going through meetings and discussing the needs of the county, we discovered that, you know, one on-site day a month was a little low for what you guys were used to. And due to the nature of how Kelly worked, it was easy to get things done and accomplished and have someone, you know, right there to look over it with you. And then if she didn't get it, she would immediately call us. And then we would work through that as well. So what we've done in the contract is amended it to 2 days a month. We have one set day and then one day dictated by the county on when would be, you know, the most necessary to come up. And I assume Delaney would be the contact and would manage that side of things and say, hey, can you be here Monday? Let's roll. And so we would be able to do that. We also put in an emergency day just in case this important system went down, whether it was for the sheriff's office or for the clerk or anyone else, we'd be able to come, especially during election time. We know that is a big deal, huge deal. So we're always available when it's that time of year, and it's a big time this year. I don't know your current offices that might be up for re-election or anything like that, but I know with the big midterms, there's a lot going on. We also are CGIS certified. All of us are. We're fingerprinted, licensed, insured, bonded. We recently helped out with the new Wi-Fi system at the fairgrounds. How did that go last week with the fair? Was it-
I was up there a lot.
Were you really? Oh, okay.
Yes, I.
Did Kurt
think
come back as well?
Yeah, Kurt came back. He and I spent let's see, he got here at 6 o'clock on Tuesday night, and I think we left at 10 o'clock Tuesday night. And then he was back Wednesday at noon and didn't leave until Wednesday at 6.
Poor guy.
So shout out to Kurt because he came back, was really dedicated to getting all of that stuff set up. I will say it wasn't anything you guys installed. It was the radio system not
Right.
supporting itself and continually crashing.
Yeah.
So, which apparently it still continues to do to this day due to all the emails I get from the system. So
Oh, they set you up as the,
yeah, I
Yeah,
get the lovely alert notification. I think I got 14 of them last night around like 1:30 in the morning.
silence.
Yeah.
Silence the phone. Well, so there was that. Another recent project that we worked on was for Sergeant Flory down in the sheriff's on the new ticketing communication system, so they could process their tickets and send them directly to the court. That was kind of fun because we got to reach out to a company called DigiTicket and work hand in hand with them. And he said since it's been up and running, it's been terrific. There's some other projects we're working on currently too with Helion, setting up a new website for tax and assessor purposes, which should be ready to roll about the time of the month, end of this month, when everything goes live for the new season. Those are just some of the examples. We have a ticketing system in place where anyone within the county can submit a ticket. We reach out, get back to you, schedule a time to get it fixed if it's not available immediately. And then we also work with Delaney on managing that.
And that's really under Exhibit A, kind of shows that system.
So we do have remote access to the system. We know the system because we've been here through the years. So really the learning curve for us is not hardly anything at all. We understand what needs to be upgraded. And then because of the transition of powers, we'd really like to start implementing more contact with department heads and going through lists of needs and creating a 2 to 3 year plan for IT services and upgrades. And that can happen quarterly, annually, biannually, whatever works best for the departments. If some want to meet quarterly, we can meet quarterly. But knowing everyone within the county, they seem to stay on top of it with us, and it makes it really nice. So the amendments that were proposed were adding the extra day on site with the option for the emergency day, continue our remote support and ticketing system. Another thing we also offer is on-site cybersecurity training for members of the county. We did one a couple years ago, had positive reviews. I actually just did one for Jefferson County about 2 months ago. Loved it, and unfortunately they recorded me so they could show it to other employees and new employees that come on board. I didn't know that was going to happen, so I was surprised, but it worked out well. And we found that out to be very beneficial, especially as we go through the complexities of emails and how attackers are hacking emails. You know, we see all kinds of examples, especially on the county side, where you guys have targets on your backs, and we understand that. So for us, with the experience of working with all the other counties, we actually have quite a team that understands the inner workings of county infrastructure and technology. If there's something that I don't know, I'm able to bounce it off a coworker, say that's on site in Harney County. You know, Jeremy down there can reach back and say, oh, this is what we did when we came up with that situation. Or Sean in Madras, or Gilliam in Madras, who we just hired, and she's been awesome. So we actually have people scattered throughout Eastern Oregon that are on.
You're at Bend?
We're based out of Bend, but we have employees that live Redmond, Madras, Burns, Lakeview. Phil and I, Phil's here, he's just taking care of some issues today, are primary contacts for Gilliam County. Brad does step in when needed, and then Jeremy and Sean are his backup. So there's always someone available. We currently have 11 employees, but we all share in the load because not one person knows everything. So any questions from you guys?
I don't think I have it.
No.
Anybody on the board?
Nothing that's come in.
Okay, awesome. Well, we appreciate the time and for having us out today.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah.
All right, and then the last one, there is included in there is a bid from Structured IT. I can't really speak more to that one. They were just able to connect with me last night and tell me that their proposal is the same and that they would not be coming out. So that's all I have for that.
So do you have? You think the discussion?
I don't think so, but it's all, like you said, it's swirling around in there.
So, I asked you this downstairs, I'm gonna ask you in a public meeting for
Thanks for the pressure.
your opinion.
My opinion is I think they've all put together some great proposals. I will say Actech has been great to work with as well. Brad and I met and reviewed things, and we got to the contract together, but that they presented today after I worked with him. So I like what they put together to propose to us. I will say Radcom for my IT brain sounds the best, because I really think they will be that more hands-on fully taking it over, so it'll be less, I will have my hands more off than I will necessarily with AgTech. But again, that's me personally, and as the IT liaison, I am good with whatever level we get, but I do think that the proposals were well put together. And AgTech is
Definitely.
at a level that I feel comfortable with as well, getting into there. But that's where my opinion is.
Do you have an opinion, Commissioner?
Do I have an opinion? I'm not sure I have an opinion yet. I think I have some stuff to process.
Yeah, we obviously have a motion that we can put on the table, and because just in monthly charges, there's $67,000 difference, and I'd rather protect people's taxpayer
Yeah.
dollars.
That's part of the.
I would be more comfortable if we had a full court discussion over it.
I think that's a good idea too.
If you think it can wait until for 2 weeks.
It's up to you guys. I think it can. Yeah.
Yeah,
it
I
can
mean, I'd like
absolutely
the judge to be here too.
I think it's a big enough.
She's had more
decision.
hands-on as far as what, what's been happening. I think it would be beneficial for her to be able to weigh in.
Not to duck responsibility, but I think it's a responsible thing to do.
I think so too.
It's
Too, this is a big,
a big change,
stuff,
and it
and
affects
Mhm.
the rest of the staff as well, at a
Yeah,
level that I
well,
think it would
yeah,
be
the
helpful. to
entire
have this.
county.
So with that, I guess we're in agreement to table until September 21st.
But thank you
Put it on
all
the
for your
agenda.
presentation.
You
Mhm.
get it on the agenda.
Yeah, and this meeting is recorded, so Liz can go through and watch the presentations as well. And then I will send you guys an invite to that meeting for follow-up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for coming out. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
With
yeah,
that,
Miranda.
We need to move to 6.2, consider approval of contracted human resources services with HR Answer. Miranda, you're up.
Okay, so, since there was the choice to outsource the disciplinary side and some other aspects of HR, I reached out to get bids for HR services, and, one of them declined. But HR Answers has their fee. But, I've worked with HR Answers in the past. And I really do think that they're probably our best option because they're very broad. There's lots of people to help you whenever you need. With the HR Annie, they're a smaller company, which not saying they couldn't do it, but I don't think there would be that service that you could call and get immediate help if you needed. And that their price point is very fair. So basically, we can pick who we would like to have be a contact person. So all the elected officials, myself and Liz can all be a contact person. And if there's anybody else we wanted to add, we would just let them know. And then anybody could call the phone or call them whenever they need for any questions. And then they'll take on projects as well if we need them to. So pretty much any level service. So if we wanted them to write a policy, we could send it and they would, or I could write it and they could review it however we wanted to do that. So they're really flexible.
So, and then the cost would be, contingent on what we actually contracted with
Yeah.
them to do.
So you basically have kind of put in the briefing here a maximum of 6,500 or so
Yeah, for the full
for
year.
the full year. Not a big number
No,
for what we're asking for. When you consider potential risk and
yeah, we have to be careful.
need for.
Yeah.
Solid HR program. So do you have any questions?
I don't think I have any other questions. Option 2 is, asking them to take on anything that we aren't comfortable with, like, the employee,
Disciplinary.
disciplinary and grievance process. Which I think needs to be outside the building, for sure. What other things would you feel that would be unnecessary? Or is that pretty much everything that you don't
Yeah,
feel comfortable with?
I like the thought of having them review documents, like if I'm
Mhm.
writing a policy, just make sure that
Right,
just having that feedback from them would be really helpful.
for all those.
And then like right now, I'm tackling making sure that our employee handbook's up to date. And then I would like to have it coincide with our bargaining unit.
Right,
And so that would, I feel more comfortable that they review it afterwards before we bring it to the table for you guys to review, those kinds of things.
yeah, okay. So do we need option 2 then, as opposed to
I'm
option 1?
comfortable with Miranda's recommendation, and I believe that is her recommendation.
Okay. So I move to authorize the county judge in coordination with legal counsel to negotiate and finalize a time and materials-based agreement with HR Answers for human resources services not currently assigned to the employee resources officer.
And I will second. Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes.
Okay, thank you.
And on to 6.3. Consider amendment to FY 2022-23 Special Progress Grant for Summit Springs Village. And as I read through this is basically leasing a dishwasher instead of purchasing a dishwasher.
Yeah,
My only question was, what is the length of the lease? And it just said, I guess it's covered, whatever the grant is, they figure covers.
Yeah, they
the
said they would
term of the lease.
fully expend that $10,000 towards the lease, so I imagine it was probably some sort of long-term lease with that, or not the full 10,000, because they're still purchasing the medication cart.
Right.
But they just said that the service plan they can get is better with the lease option than just outright purchasing one, and they would rather have somebody out to fix it if it breaks versus be left out on their own.
yeah, that made a lot of sense to me for that type of a
I
commercial
have a little
dishwasher.
experience in this area and I would agree with that.
Yeah, well, I have a semi-broken dishwasher at home right now, so I agree with them also. They send their guy to help me.
The only difference is the lease I've got is $1 a month,
Oh, well, that sounds pretty
but I have to
good.
buy all the chemicals there.
Mm.
So. Can
I
would
think
you like to
that,
make a
yeah,
motion?
I would move to amend the fiscal year 2022-2023 special projects grant agreement with Summit Springs Village to allow the funds to be used for the lease of a dishwasher and purchase of a medication cart, and to authorize the county judge to prepare and execute an amended agreement reflecting the same.
And I will second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're just making all kinds of motions for the county judge to do all this work.
I kind of have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So does this mean they're gonna come back later to us for more money for the dishwasher after? I'm
Well, they-
assuming this is not gonna.
They could make the request, I'm sure,
Okay.
and
So
then
I
it's
think
on
we
the court.
originally did the thing, we thought they're gonna buy the dishwasher and not, we could end up.
Now they're leasing so they can have a service contract. So it doesn't break down and they have to come back and ask us for another dishwasher.
I understand the question.
Yeah.
And, we
Yeah, it's
don't,
gonna be an ongoing cost.
we don't know the length of the lease, obviously,
Yeah,
but, normally those are a 5-6 year lease and you are probably getting to the tail end of the life of your machine regardless.
I can ask them for that information and include it in the agreement of for how long the lease is when we amend the agreement.
That would be good, yeah. Thank you. Good idea.
And so we've already voted, so it has passed. We'll move on to 6.4, consider approval of fleet vehicle purchase and approval of resolution number R 2022-16 declaring county vehicle as surplus property. Darrell?
I'm no car salesman, but I'm gonna try to sell you a car.
Okay, try to sell the car.
Yeah. So I was put in charge of the fleet vehicles a few months back and they're all up, good to go, except for the one that's older that everyone seems to like to use the larger vehicles too, and with our winters here and stuff. So it's got 132,000 miles on it. It's got some minor defects we need to fix if we're going to keep it. And we have the 35,000 budget. And so I was asked to go out and try to find, you know, everyone seems to like the Equinox, so I tried to get Equinox or similar. And I went to 5 or 6 different places. Most people are out of cars right now. It's really crazy time. I was able to secure 3 bids, which were right around that 35,000. I see the one, the lowest is from the Tonkin of the Gorge. And they actually just got that one in. I did take pictures of that when I went to town shopping a couple weekends ago. It looks good. But the question came up about, yeah, I was able to obtain 3 actually. But like I tried 6 different places and none of them except for the one can guarantee that they have any in by the time we get to county court in 3 weeks, except for the one, which just happened to be the lowest bid, which is kind of convenient, but that's kind of nice. But my question was, after the fact of asking people for bids, was if we can trade our old one in, or do we let the sheriff's department sell it? So that's what you had to decide today too, I think. But then in hindsight, after asking that, it's probably most fair, because I didn't ask all of them about a trade-in, to go through ahead and maybe just go ahead and purchase a vehicle and then have Gary do that once I started thinking about it. But that's up to you guys.
My concern would be not doing that is that used vehicles are worth a lot of money today.
Okay.
More than they are
More-
trade-in. Yeah.
And I can give you an example of a friend that just bought a brand new Ford pickup a month ago.
Mhm.
When she picked it up and they gave her more than she asked for her used rig, which was 12 or 14 years old, that's more than she originally paid for it.
Okay.
And when she picked it up, she was told that if she didn't like the new one, she would bring it back and they would give her $5,000 more than she paid for it. And they would also give her $1,000 more back on the trade-in than what she had gotten. So she could have made $6,000 returning a brand new vehicle.
Yeah,
And that's just the market we're in
it's
today.
pretty crazy, yeah.
The other concern I would have is 132,000 is a lot of miles, but not a whole lot.
Terrible.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And would it run another year without spending $33,000? I mean, I don't know, what's it used for?
For people to go to meetings or, yeah,
I don't want to leave county employees in a place where they could break down on the road and all that, but it's really not a super high mileage vehicle.
mhm.
You know, I would say if we're getting closer to 200,000, I'd be more concerned. But that's kind of my.
If we're gonna keep that one, we need to get some work done on it. The hood latch release needs to be redone, and the wiper fluid motor.
Fixed for less than 33,000.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, I guess that for me, if you would go through the exercise of seeing what we could get for a trade-in, what they would allow in a trade-in on it,
Mhm.
comparison there, and bring it back in a couple of weeks, I would bring it back up for discussion.
Well,
Do
and
you think this rig would not make it another year?
Oh, I think it would make it another year, if we put a little money in a couple minor repairs. That,
yeah, I'd like to see that too. What are the minor repairs and what would the cost? Did you have that?
no, just just wrote down the issues with it. With,
To waive the,
Because we can certainly move the 33,000 into the next budget.
mhm. So right now, you guys are not wanting to purchase a new one with.
Well,
is that
I
what you-
think if you could come back with some, what we could get for a trade-in, maybe
Hmm.
we could.
So you don't think they could sell it more with the sheriff's department, like you're talking privately?
I'm doubtful, but,
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but I could do a little research.
Okay, I just.
I know that dealers have empty lots and they're hungry for something to park on it,
Mhm.
and they're offering quite a bit of money.
well, there's people out there that are hungry to find a vehicle because they aren't out there too. That's the other thing of weighing whether a trade-in is the best one or to put it out for bid, so. You know, you just don't, it's hard to tell, but yeah,
I
I'd like
always
to know
feel like
what's
through
it
the
gonna cost to
surplus-
fix it.
I always feel like through the surplus deal, you get lowball pretty bad.
You know, sometimes, yeah.
Well, I'm sure it'd be less than 1,000 to fix it. It would,
Yeah.
nothing major, but
Do you drive it?
I do not. I believe it's used by the assessor's office uses it quite a
Oh,
bit.
well, that's probably why it's in
Teddy.
such disrepair.
yeah, I wasn't gonna say that on the record, so.
Teddy.
I think I
uses
just
it
did.
for Going to her meetings and things like that, because she can have more of those.
Oh, right.
Those
So,
things in it.
yeah.
So long trips, probably Arlington's the furthest mainly. If you go.
This one went to Winnemucca this year.
The assessor went to Winnemucca?
No,
I know he did.
librarian did.
Oh,
I think this one went to Bend and, Pendleton, you know, those kind of areas.
yeah. Winnemucca was probably a long distance for it in an odd year.
Well, if you want to bring it back with some more information, I would be in favor. What do you think?
Yeah. Let's find out what we get for a trade and see what that weighs in at.
I'll visit with the sheriff's office about the surplus and what they feel about that.
Okay. My only hope is, or,
Yep, the only
Concern is
problem
there
with that
probably
is
might not be
the
any
car's
vehicle.
still gonna be there.
no, they were holding it for the 3 weeks in
Oh,
case
were
they
they?
got, yeah, so,
Ask them to hold it for 2 months.
yeah, so. All right.
Okay,
That's your
Thanks,
guys' decision,
Cheryl.
all right?
Announcements?
no.
So what's Sherry been doing?
No, well, let's see, don't really wanna know. Apparently not very much.
Apparently nothing.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, there's just nothing on my calendar. We, Norcor has decided to do an every other month meeting, which is what used to be the process, but then when we came into all the no administrator and things were, lot was going on. We went to a monthly meeting for the last 3 years, actually, before. And now, so we won't be meeting in September, we'll be in October and December, so. Capco has been losing some of their board members, so that's in something that I've tried to make the meetings because of the quorum related to that. In my September, we have, we are hosting the AOC District 3 meeting on September the 22nd here at the Chamber Building. So that'll be fun if anybody's interested in AOC District 3. And then that's all I have on my schedule right now.
Okay, well, I via Zoom attended the OCA meeting a couple weeks ago. I also went to the OTEC Economic Development Summit at Anthony Lake, so a week ago Monday, and it was a really good summit, with a lot of good economic development, rural economic development ideas, and had the community colleges and their programs and what they're doing to help workforce housing, which I talked to two of the three local, because Columbia Gorge was not there, but Blue Mountain Community was there in Treasure Valley about how come when they were addressing workforce housing, they weren't talking about, I'm not workforce for workforce that would apply to workforce housing. Why weren't they talking about classes that would train people to swing a hammer?
Right?
And it was interesting bringing that subject up because they really hadn't considered it on the actual hands-on framework and those type of
Yeah.
things. So I think they're going to do some work along those lines. They did, you know, they talk a lot about classes in electricity and plumbing and those types of things, but a lot of those are going into industry, not into housing. Electricians are going to work for data plants, solar farms, and not into residential housing. So the 3D printed house, they had two presentations regarding where they're at with some of that. There's some interesting things going on in Wallowa County and Baker County, both with other county courts addressing some of the housing issues. So I think in the future, we probably need to consider having at least a short work session over housing again and discuss there's some new ideas out there and some new things that are going on. China Creek's working on trying to do something in Arlington and seeing if there's some things we can do to give them some direction on where to go with some of these ideas and see if we can, you know, kind of move some things, move the ball forward. Other than that, I'm going to go to the governor's luncheon Friday. The governor will not be there, but it's more of a conservative Republican luncheon, so I don't know why they call it the governor's luncheon, but
Yeah, I won't be going.
I understand that, and that's perfectly fine. That's probably why I will be.
I understand that too.
Other side of the aisle. But, yeah, let me do that.
All nonpartisan here.
And I'm going to attend the. Social time with other government officials. Other than that, Korea meetings Friday.
Yeah, I was gonna try to listen in too. Because there's so much going on.
And we don't know what the judge is doing, so.
Well, I can tell you a little bit about what she's doing.
Okay, go.
So we have more Rocket meetings this month to finish out that process. We're meeting with an organization that reached out to Sherry, Wonder School. They come in and are like an organization who comes in and brings their program and curriculum and things like that into daycares and things like that. So we're going to meet with them next Monday, hopefully to go.
Is that a state program?
No, it's a private organization. They're kind of like in the valley, there's a bunch of different various like nationwide childcare organizations and things like that that have, I think, kinder care and things like that. So they're comparable to one of those where they come in and they operate you're under as a wonder school, things like that. So it'll just be interesting to have that discussion. Yeah, and then like, yeah, ASD districts, and then see, there's a broadband consortium meeting on Friday.
Oh, is there?
Mhm.
Don't remember getting that.
Also Liz sent Jed and I, there's a state meeting with the governor's office on solar renewable development that she's asked either Jed and I have a conflict too. She had a conflict, so I'm gonna see if Jed will attend that. Oh, no, it's on hydrogen.
Oh, I'm hydrogen.
Hydrogen hubs. Well, there's $80 billion going to 6 hydrogen hubs in the United States, and the Pacific Northwest has 2 or 3 entities that are trying to get in there. We're trying to get Oregon on the map over Washington and California to potentially get the Northwest hydrogen hub in Oregon.
And then we heard back from Lead for America regarding the fiber fellow, and they have some interviews scheduled for that. So hopefully we might be adding a fiber fellow here to work on our fiber project. And they did a kind of a wrap, I guess, a wrap around to that. Comstructure has been conducting field studies. So they're going to put all of that together into their final proposal and things like that. So hopefully we'll get back from them soon.
Is there anything else? Good of the order, as they say.
As they say. I have nothing else.
We'll adjourn the meeting at 11:54.